In the United Kingdom, there are conversations amongst politicians and economists alike about the importance of public houses or pubs. Financially, emotionally, and physically, pubs maintain an integral part of life in the UK. But what happens when the pub is taken away from its mainstay? What happens when it is moved to a city focused on aesthetics, with a reputation built upon the glamour of Hollywood and known for its healthy lifestyles? How does pub culture survive in Los Angeles? This is The BREW, a look at gastropub culture in Los Angeles.
A gastropub to me is a place where people go to have a good environment and really good food and beer.
Pub that serves good craft beer, they change it quite a bit and they make really good and really different food that you don't normally get at most restaurants.
A place that has microbrew beer and good, interesting food. I usually expect that they have a good burger.
Yes, the definition of gastropub would be just, the variety of what they offer. You can go to a bar, you have Coronas, Bud Lights, the usual stuff, but when you go to gastropubs, you got Chimay's, you got craft beers from local breweries, stuff that you don't find in other places, and I think if you're looking for a different thing to go for, I think that's why you go to a place like this.
It's a bit more like a restaurant than a pub, the traditional British pub.
My name is Chef Jay, and I'm here currently at Gastropub Tuning Fork. I've worked a little bit in the industry, let's say about 20-25 years, and I've learned so much. I've cooked so many places. I've enjoyed this journey. Gastropub to me is a place that you come to experience wonderful food as well as a selection of beers that you might not have in, say, a regular restaurant. Gastropubs now have been brought to a level that the food and the beers themselves are paired, so you're getting a full experience. I think the food differentiates it from an ale house. The quality of food, for us, locally sourced produce, organic produce, just keeping everything a level up on, I say, a regular ale house.
I'm James Willis. I'm the general manager here at Kings Row Gastropub. Certified Cicerone, member of the Quartermaster Sommeliers. Delicious food and also craft cocktails, craft beer, fine wines. First and foremost, though, I think it came about as something to draw people back into the restaurant that might not otherwise come. Just because a bar being called a bar or a pub doesn't necessarily communicate clearly the fact that they have delicious food as well.
I think people want an atmosphere where they can have food and not be forced to confine in, say, like an upscale restaurant where you have to have a suit and tie on. It's a relaxed atmosphere, but yet the food is still top-notch, and you have the camaraderie of people around you, locals that come in, and we all know each other. And so I think there's a friendly atmosphere. We're fortunate to be in this location and to have a lot of residential areas surrounding us, so we do get a lot of regulars here. Yes.
Number one, you have to have the food element. It's got to be something that pushes the limits. On our menu, there's a couple of items specifically that I could point at that are on the menu currently, like the bone marrow and the chorizo mussels. These are two items that are built specifically to push people's palates in a different direction, and something that you don't often see in a pub or bar fare. Second thing that you have to have to be called a gastropub is the craft, really crafty, really high quality beverages. Whether they be non-alcoholic or alcoholic, in order to call yourself that, you have to have this dedication to craft. That are things, it's not necessarily things that are obscure, because obscurity and small production does not necessarily make craft. It's something that just quality, overall quality can make. So Stone, let me give a good example in the beer world. Samuel Adams is commonly, by beer nerds, kind of shunned because it's the largest craft brewery in the nation. By far the biggest production of any craft brewery. A lot of beer nerds will shun that because of their production. Well, the fact is they're biggest because they make a great product. So it's something that you'll see on my menu. You know, it's not something that I'll ignore because they are so good. So you have to have this dedication to craft, number two. And number three, you have to have the right people. The people in the pub are really what make it a community and really what make it the environment that you want the general public to come and experience. So if you don't have the right people, and that starts from the ownership down, if you don't have the right people, it's not going to be a gastropub. It's just going to be something that's called a gastropub that people don't really want to go to.
It's completely different. In the UK, I think beer is taken extremely serious, and you can see that there are pubs everywhere, and as far as it goes here, there's more of a diversity, there's more selections here when it comes to restaurants. So in the UK, I think the pubs are ingrained in the history of the UK. It's just what it is. Here, I think you don't have that, and you could go either way. You could stay standard and be a pub, or you could take it to the gastropub level and, you know, get that experience also. But I think as far as the UK goes, I think it's embedded in the history of what the UK is.
LA pub culture as a whole is, well, it's interesting. We are such a fast-paced community here, and as opposed to rely on London pub culture, because I know of it, I've read about it, but I haven't really been there. Let me bring in Seattle pub culture, because it's from my understanding pretty similar, and I've been there and I've lived it. Seattle pub culture is a lot more laid back. You can go to, like, my favorite neighborhood in Seattle is Capitol Hill. There's bars and bars and bars and bars and bars everywhere. You could go to a place called the Saint, which is the best tequila bar in the world, and right around the corner is this place called the Stumbling Monk, which is, I mean, it puts the Belgian beer selection at Lucky Baldwin's to shame. It's just ludicrous, the cool diversity of bars that you have there. So that's kind of the pub culture of diversity and just chill. Well, California's not that. California, at least where we live here in Pasadena, is a little bit more chill than it would be, say, on the west side. But the culture here is more driven. People come out, they see your place on Yelp or on the internet or social media or whatever, and they come out, they want to try it, they come out and they stop at your place, they try it, they write a review, and sometimes it's really mean and sometimes it's really awesome, and then they take off, right? And then half the time you'll never see these people again. I guess the biggest differentiation between like the Seattle pub culture or London pub culture and LA's is that in Seattle the community around those pubs is enough to sustain it. They don't need that extra influx. Well, here it's so expensive here, and everything is so cost driven that without that influx of people coming in that I have to convince to come in and then come back again, without that, every restaurant in Old Town Pasadena would die because there's too many. You know, there's too much going on for us to just survive on the community directly around us, like say in a 5-mile radius. This is a fun question because to me, it's never just one thing. It's always about understanding where that guest or where that person is coming from. So if my guest, for example, is a big fan of Miller Lite, which is my favorite of the crappy cheap beers, right? So if they're a big fan of Miller Lite, I'm going to point them at something that has a little bit more malt forward flavor in a beer, and then say they're experimental and they're really open to like trying new foods. Well, maybe like bone marrow or something like our own house cured bacon. Those are the kind of things I might point someone like that at. But there's other people that come in and say, hey, well, I want to try a beer, but my favorite thing to drink at home is a real rich Cabernet Sauvignon, or even better, champagne. I love drinking champagne at home. That person is sitting at my bar. Me, a guy that really likes champagne and is new to beer, right? Well, I might point them at something like a sour beer, something like the brewery's BREW that I have on tap right now. If they like rosé champagnes or something on a little bit of the sweeter side, even though BREW is sweet in flavor, it's not sugary at all. So you get a nice sweet flavor, a really beautiful, brilliant tart sourness in the finish. That might be something that I could set somebody like that up with. So it really depends, where that person is coming from. And that's the kind of training that I like to give my staff. I like to allow them to kind of put themselves in the shoes of the guest and of the person that wants to experience this place and get them the absolute best thing that you could possibly get for that person because it changes on a case-by-case basis.
Right now, I like the New York steak, Brussels sprouts, lentils, butternut squash, balsamic glaze, basil vinaigrette on there. Very delicious. Essentially, the whole menu has been paired with the selection of beers that we have back there. The steak goes well with dark beers, porters, anything smoky. Because the steak is grilled, it actually gives it another dimension when you're drinking the beer. It's a whole experience that you have to have. Customers have a lot to do with the beers that we get because essentially they're the ones that are purchasing it. But at the same time, we want to have beers that can be paired with whatever is on the menu. So, you know, it goes both ways. It incorporates everything. Customers, the food, and the selection of beers that the purveyors have at any one time. I enjoy making the jerk chicken. Every time I make it, it brings me back to the Caribbean and you know, those flavors, the spices, the herbs, thyme, cinnamon, allspice, nutmeg, all brings back great childhood memories for me. So I enjoy making that. At the same time, I do want to have some sort of British food here, just as a throwback to where we come from. Fortunately for us here at Tune and Fork, on Sundays we have a farmer's market right in front of us. So it made it easy for us to pull from locally sourced farmers, and I mean, that's been wonderful, especially when it comes to seasonal produce that may be a little harder to find. we're able to get it because we have access to farmers right in front of us.
Up, one of the owners, is really enthusiastic about food. Now his vision for the menu is very pub oriented, and my vision for the menu is very gastro oriented. So when we put the two together, we end up with these really cool collaborations of vision. Now the chef implementing it is stellar. So like on our last menu we had the Scotch egg, right? When we took the Scotch egg, we made our own breakfast sausage, wrapped it in. We would put American cheese in it, which is something that you don't really do on a Scotch egg, and then batter it and fry it, right? Bread it and fry it. That egg was insane. It was so good. So we took that pub, simple, accessible fare and made it gastro, and we're able to run with it. Like currently our fish and chips is exactly that as well. Our fish and chips is absolutely ridiculous. The freshest cod that we can possibly get, the best batter that we can possibly make. It's a beer batter, and then we serve it with fresh cut fries. You know, we cut our fries. There's a guy here at like 7 in the morning every day, whacking those Kennebec potatoes with the fry slicer. You know, kind of balance of making the traditional pub fare, but bringing it into a gastropub light, and then also throwing some stuff that's just blatantly American on it, American cheeseburger, and you know, I think the juxtaposition of those two kinds of fare on the same menu is really fun and really makes it a little bit lighthearted. If I was to come here and have one meal, I would come in and get the bone marrow to start, the bacon board to share with somebody, and then I would have either the fish and chips or the Highland Park pulled pork. Those are my two kind of go-tos. The fish and chips, like I said previously, it's just such high quality. If I can be completely candid and honest, we could make a lot more money on that by serving poor product, but we don't. And that is, to me, it's just so cool. The Highland Park pulled pork is fun because it's a real LA recipe. It's Coke, OJ, pomegranate juice, braised on this pork shoulder that's then shredded. We make our own spicy barbecue sauce for it, fry up our own onions, and throw it on a bun. Paired with those, kind of depends on, like I mentioned before, depends on where the guest comes from and what their palate is like. But if I was to do it for myself, with the bone marrow, I would pair myself something like a Belgian Golden Strong, a Duvel Single, or something like the Allagash. Which Allagash? Allagash Confluence. That's what I would do with that one. With the bacon board, I might do something hoppy, so something like the Green Flash West Coast IPA or the Epic Brewing Company's Hopulent IPA on Nitro. With the fish and chips, I would do straight up an amber, Strand Amber. I think it's the best amber on the market. It's so awesome. And it's delicious with fish and chips. With the Highland Park pulled pork, I would go a little bit of a different direction, and I would do something like a coffee stout, something that would bring out the roasty, toasty nature of the pulled pork, and it would really shine. Every gastropub having a community, to me, is an essential element, and that comes from the latter half of the word gastropub, the pub part. Public house is what that comes from, and public house means a place of gathering for the public, for people. In the origins of kind of the pub culture, that's what it's all about. It's the place where the neighborhood can come together. People would have like political meetings. People would have social gatherings. People would have times of sorrow, times of happiness, all in this one place, right? And that's what we want to be, right? So that, to me, is an essential element of being a gastropub. I think a lot of people miss the point on that. I think that it's rampant, people missing the point on what being a pub means and what being part of your community means. Like, for example, for us to be part of the community, last year we did two different events with Union Station Homeless Services. So we give a lot back to the community in that regard. We do an event with this charity called 5 Acres every year, and 5 Acres is one of the best charities in the world, in my opinion. They do work that needs to be done, and it's really, yeah, it's really amazing stuff that they do with those children. And then we did a one-off charity event and auction called Brews for Brooks last year. This family, this young child, he was 2 months old when he got diagnosed, Brooks Dillard, and he got diagnosed with a double aortic arch, which means the aorta of your heart curls around your trachea and cuts off your airflow. He's 2 months old, you know, and the family has, I can't remember if they had 2 or 3 other kids. I think it's 2 other children. The dad is in the military, and the mom, Tracy, is a stay-at-home mom. So our heart really went out to this family. My wife actually saw an article about them on Facebook, and we decided that, you know, it was a worthy cause to try and help this family deal with the challenges, and we raised a real substantial amount of money for them via an auction. People were donating beer. We really mobilized our community around us. People that I didn't even know were making donations through their website from the advertising and promotion that we did for this one event. So yeah, I don't think you can be a gastropub and not be involved in the community, particularly in ways like that. When you're trying to be the place that people come to celebrate those kind of things. Hey, I went on a run, I'm gonna go have a beer. Hey, you know, my grandfather passed away, I need some consolation and comfort. Can you come down to the pub and have a beer with me? You know, it's this huge spectrum of things that can be filled by this space, that people can come and celebrate, and really the heart and soul of what the restaurant is the people. So you can't run a successful restaurant without being that for the community, I think.
We have an open mic, and we've gotten so much great talent here. It's been phenomenal. Just in this area alone, musicians, spoken word, poetry, singers, you name it, we've gotten it here. I think it's an outreach to the talent in this area, and I think it's going to grow. That's what started this, was the music. It took us a while to get music up and running, but I think it's an integral part of who we are. Tune and fork could go either way. Tune and fork you eat with, or tune and fork you tune your instrument with. It had to be part of the process, and it had to be part of this restaurant to make it successful. This place has wonderful energy. I don't know if you know a little bit of the background of this place. It was sort of a Buddhist Thai restaurant, a lot of Buddhist influence, and we do have a lot of great energy here, a lot of positive energy, and I think our customers feel it when they come in here. I think that's just a facet of a gastropub. You need to have that sense of camaraderie, that sense of community, otherwise you're not going to last. You have to have it.